question, I want to ask a very simple question, Mr. Kelvin. If we had 10,000 teachers at State House, and in the country, the teachers that have been employed by the TSC are more than 400,000, right? So what about these other 390,000 teachers?
Brother, there is what we call sampling. You can't accommodate 400,000 people at the State House. It goes without saying that.
Okay, so these are samples.
In any case, somebody would argue that it is sampling. I was actually trying to attack the idea of bringing these teachers. A teacher is a role model in a society.
Okay.
When you find that a teacher is the one being taken for that, it tells you something is amiss. In what way? This is somebody who should even be against, they are just handouts. Those 10,000 shillings are just handouts. This is somebody who should be on the forefront criticizing the idea of government giving away handouts. He should be leading students. He or she should be leading students by example.
Mr. Kevin, we are missing a point here. 10,000 is not just, remember, it's money. It is not just money. This money, and remember, you are a business person. And right now, what I've discovered is that a lot of businesses are being shut down. And you mentioned from the beginning that the problem that we have right now is that the money is not circulating within the people, it's being given to the government. That is why you cannot go to the bank and be given money as the way you used to be given. So when you say that this money that is being spent at State House is just money.
I think it is good if we focused on the idea of bringing teachers than focusing even on the idea of the amount, because the amount was meant to even lure them. Because, for example, myself, if I'm coming from, say, Eldoret, and I have to come to Nairobi to go to the state House to collect 10,000, that is a journey of, like, say, 2 days. A whole day coming and a whole day going back. Then I take 10,000 and the transport and plus where I'm going to spend my night. That one does not make sense. So, at the end of the day, let us talk about the idea and not the amount, because there's a lot of money in this country. Let me tell you
there's money. It's about how much we collect in a day?
I cannot be very, very sure, but it is something slightly over 2 billion.
2 billion. It's 1 point something or 2 billion.
Yes.
Yeah. So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for your greatest support. As usual, my name is Boniface Owino, and I'm going to be your host during this show from the beginning up to the end. And I'm very lucky here to have my brother here. His name is Kevin, and I'll give him time to introduce himself, tell us who he is, and then we get back into the discussion. Mr. Kevin, karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Like you heard, my name is Kevin CHEMIAT. Others call me CHEMIAT, Arab CHEMIAT. All those names are mine, and we're doing good with them. So CHEMIAT is professionally a teacher, a businessman, and above all, a climate change champion.
It's very nice that you mentioned something to do with actually what I want us to talk about. You've categorized them. Like you are a climate change champion, at the same time you are a businessman.
Correct.
And lastly, talk about we can as well talk about you are a teacher.
True.
So under climate, under this climate, I want us to discuss things to do with how your space is connected with the issue of the health, because I think they go in line. And then we also talk about the issue of education, because you were once a teacher, and of course you know what has been happening in this country as far as teaching is concerned, the education sector, and also economy. But I want us to start with the economy. I remember there was a time that we were talking, and you told me that you were one of the victims of the of the Gen Z. You're still hard. So you can at least try to tell us a little about what you understand with the economy. Are we really where? My question is, when you talk about economy, are we really where we are supposed to be as a country or as a nation?
Definitely we are not. As a country, we are not where we are supposed to be.
Okay.
But that one is contributed to by a number of factors. Leaders want us to believe that we are there.
Okay.
And like, I'll just talk about the present day leadership that there is. Our president has been insisting that our economic growth is on a positive trajectory, and we have seen, according to IMF, how we're ranking, in fact, being the best economy in East Africa. I think 6th in the continental rankings, because we've just beaten Ethiopia and what have you. Now the question remains, when we boast about these rankings, are Kenyans feeling it? You know, it is something that when the president talks about it as something we should be proud of, we need to know that Kenyans are also owning that, and they are enjoying. They believe they are leading a better life than other people. So it is not just it is, you know, we talk about growth and development. You know, it's just it is also amounting or catering, or it pertains also the well-being of Kenyans. And so you cannot just be talking about economic growth. You know, okay, let me put it this way. When you talk about economic growth, Kenya's economic ranking being that superior basically is thanks to the public sector. And by the public sector, I'm talking about talk of SGR, improved road networks and what have you. You know, the parameters are very, very much clear. If you want to know that you are enjoying an economic growth, that your citizens are also feeling it, you can be able to measure that based on the employment rate. The productivity of people. Kenya is endowed. When it comes to the labor force, we are most endowed. In fact, one of the greatest reasons as to why we are the economic giants of East Africa is because of the workforce. A Kenyan is somebody who can be diverse, you can do a lot of things. In fact, our economy is diversified. When you look at other countries, we have countries whose economy is all thanks to some kind of endowment or resource. It is resource oriented. Like, for example, you talk about there is gold in which country, there is copper in which country. There is Kenya. We do not have that. We just have diversified our economy because it is service based. And you know, financial services are making the junk of it. Actually, about 26% of it, you transacting on M-Pesa, you doing what have you. The service industry in Kenya is so good, and it is thanks to the fact that we have also had a very, very competitive education system. Yes. Now,
so you were talking about, you're saying that the reasons why sometimes we see that our economy might not be that actually why it's not growing as we expect is because it's like we are somehow diverse.
Actually, in fact, there's something I forgot to mention to you. When I was telling you that we are ranked best in East Africa.
In East Africa.
And this GDP is actually basically thanks to the fact that the public sector, things that belong to the public. And I mentioned the SGR, which puts us in a good shape, what have you, this very good road network around Nairobi, and what have you. Now the question remains, does Mwananchi has something? There is what we call PPP, that is the purchasing power parity. You know, you talk about what a shilling can buy in Kenya vis-a-vis what a shilling can in another country, the basket. You know, that is what you're talking about. And then you know, there is what we call an economy that is driven by the demand. See, when you talk about economic growth, there is one thing. If your economy is driven by what we call the demand pool economy, whereby, the inflation rate actually, the inflation rate, if it is the demand pool inflation, whereby the purchasing power of people has increased, and that is why the inflation rate is at where it is supposed to be, then that is positive. But when it is cost push, then that is where the problem is, because you will understand that people are not being able to purchase these things, and therefore there is no circulation of money. And you know, this is also thanks to the fact that the government is in bed with the banks. Remember, I'll take this example. During the former president, the late Mwai Kibaki's tenure, you know, the government wasn't borrowing from the bank as much. And you know, the government borrowing from a bank, it is risk-free. So a bank would run to lend the government as opposed to you because the government is risk-free, and therefore the high rates of interest on loans. This has discouraged banks from lending the common people, and now the banks are lending the government because that is free interest and it is risk-free. When you do that, money in circulation reduces, and that is why mwananchi will not feel, and that is when we talk of pesa mfukoni, there is no money in our pockets because banks are not lending us, and therefore we are not trading, we are not doing business. And then there is also the aspect of the foreign power, and there is this FDPs. When you talk about the foreign power, you know, our shilling has, to some extent, in as much as it is high, gained some bit of stability. This one is to tell you that when the currency is fighting, it is to say that there is what you call the balance of trade. We are trying to move towards a favorable balance of trade, whereby the value of exports are improving as when it is compared to value of imports. Kenya's economy has got pillars. There are sectors that make the economy, agriculture being one of the major ones. We cannot purport to be growing the Kenyan economy where it is agriculture oriented, but we are discouraging farmers each and every day. Look at this, for example, a coffee farmer in Kenya. Let us take a coffee farmer in Kenya and take that person who is selling coffee in a very, very good hotel in this Nairobi. You will go and get, say, black coffee at a very good restaurant in Nairobi at a cost of about 100 to 200. Isn't it? Then, let us do these calculations. That coffee that you are buying, that very cup, you have a sachet that is about 7 grams. You understand? A sachet of about 7 grams. Put in water plus some little sugar of negligible costs, and then it is costing 200 shillings. I have used coffee because coffee is one of those commodities or products which does not require a lot of processes and all that. Processing. It's just roasting, isn't it? So, if you have, like, say, 7 milligrams, actually 7 grams, put in water plus some sugar of negligible cost, giving somebody 200 shillings. How many 7 grams are there in about, in 1 kg? It's close to 157, isn't it? So that should mean that in 1 kg, this person in our hotel is going to get 157. I'm not so sure about the figures. It's just I'm estimating. 157 multiplied by the 200 shillings is
that is around, let's calculate, around
31,400. So the person in the hotel is going to buy 31,400 thereabout from a kg of, you know, you cannot purport to be growing an economy whose backbone is agriculture or agricultural produce, and then you are discouraging farmers day and night. That one does not make sense. And just providing a subsidy to fertilizer is not enough. Okay, Sawa, we say thank you, but it is not enough. And I was talking about the institutions that we have, like the research institution called CARO. We have one of the best. In fact, there was even, there's several things that have been found in our CAROs that are very, very nice. But now the disconnect comes in. These people at the research institute, they are only funded, they are only given salaries by the government. whatever they find out, whatever they develop, whatever they discover, and how it can reach the farmer is where it gets lost. The connectivity. How is it being important? Because these people ought to have been funded. They depend on, I don't know, donations, so that they can go and teach the farmers about what they have discovered or about their research. Yet the government could have just have funded the extension of their services so that they can reach the farmers and even peasants. This way, you increase the produce. Kenya is, I think, number 3 when it comes to tea production. We are ranking very well when it comes to coffee production. You see, we need to find out, to devise mechanisms of making sure we produce it even more and more. Why was I talking about coffee? Because I told you that coffee requires very little and very less to process. So you cannot tell me that value addition of coffee took a lot, that it took a kg from 100 shillings to 31,000 shillings. It doesn't make sense. You know, when the farmer is asking for only 200 shillings and then you want to tell us cartel, and we are left wondering, who is this cartel? Is it a wild dog? Is a cartel an insect that we cannot see? You know, it pains me. Somebody was giving an example of when we had the locust infestations. The farmers were trying to mix omo and omo. Brother,
to make the best.
Calro has been there. What is the work of Calro? We look at our preparedness as well. And then now you ask me about climate change and where this, how it connects.
That's correct.
You know, climate change is a constant process. We cannot attribute all our problems to climate change because it has been like that since eternity. After every 30 or 35 years, there will be climate change. Now we cannot stop climate change. What can we do as a climate change champion? I'm one person who likes to be realistic with these solutions. We have to be solution based. You cannot tell me you will try and curb climate change. That is
impossible.
It's impossible because it is nature driven. We can do this. You can only tell me that you are trying to adapt. You know, there is this adverse effect of climate change. For example, when the weather patterns have changed, the farmer's calendar, the traditional farmer's calendar, has also been affected. So teach this farmer to adapt along this curve. Let them know that through Calro we have developed this seed that will be able to adapt to these climatic conditions because the climates have changed. Let us know that we can produce this crop that will adapt in areas where the rainfall is less than it used to experience. You understand? As opposed to telling this farmer that we are trying to curb climate change, you know. So something is wrong somewhere.
So in other words, it's not all about trying to cover up what's happening. What is happening.
Yes. As I finish on that one, because I think I've taken a lot of time responding to that one.
It's okay.
You know, all this, we have non-governmental institutions and organizations that have been trying to do this. And the government should learn from them. In fact, just like I talk about the economy, and I say that sometimes I believe the central government needs to go to some counties who are doing very well, like Murang'a County, to go and benchmark there. They need to go and learn there on how to raise more taxes, more money, without adding the burden on 190, because that county was able to achieve that. You look at the county that was able to improve its collections, revenue collection from around 300 million to in excess of 1.2 billion, and ask yourself how much is KRA collecting in Kenya per week. Is it 9 billion? Is it? You improve it at the same rate and you will see we have a lot of money.
But now you see the problem is that we might be having all these ideas, but now the person that now will take these ideas, like whenever they hear you talking about these things, they are like, okay, but now they can't the problem is implementation.
There is what we call a goodwill. You know, if you lack a political goodwill, and you know, that is where leadership comes in. And that is where we have to blame the leadership there is, and the ones that were already even before, because all these problems are they are cumulative. It is not a one-day thing. They have been coming gradually. You know, we have been adopting the problems gradually. And this is what I was telling you, that you know, we need to just be honest with what we are doing for the people, by the people. To me, I had there was a guy, I don't know, you hosted him on this very show, and somebody, Professor Gold. The guy is brilliant. Look at the ideas he has, everything he has, and the way he is articulating on the same. And you look at the leadership. If I was the government in power today, I could have stolen his ideas and tried to implement them. So that I deny him the chance to come and fight me, purporting to be the one who will implement them. Now, I want to finish on that one, and this is very clear. I want to say this thing straight. Personally, as a climate change champion, you know, I'm a member, and I head a committee of what we call CCCU, County Climate Change Unit in Muranga, and by extension the rest of the country, because we form a caucus. Now, besides that, we have a non-governmental organization called Najimudu. Najimudu is basically, this is an organization that is basically trying to make solutions to health problems that are climate change related. You understand?
I get you.
That is, for example, you have floods. You know, it is also thanks to climate change, because maybe there is more rainfall in some parts than it used to be. We have all these, that the floods, the diseases that are brought about by this whatever. We have all that, and gender parity issues, the youth in the same, and the way they are affected. That is an organization that Capstart, in another interview, or maybe when we have time, we'll be able to talk about that. But for now, just get to know that as a champion, I do that. We move around teaching farmers on the mitigation measures. They need to know that they need to adjust this way instead of giving up. They need to try and shift to this type of agriculture and what have you. So if you are rearing goats today, we advise you that the climate has changed. Please rear chicken and all that. That is
that's a good idea. So in other words, you're trying to tell us that we need to change how we think. When there's change of environment, we also change. Like, let us not just focus on one thing. We try as much as we can, maybe to see things in a wider way. Now, that's a very wonderful thing. And being that you mentioned something to do with one of the economists, I think he's going to be a presidential candidate in 2027. Professor Gola. We'll discuss that at the end. More about yes. We'll discuss more about Professor Gola as we wind up. Just under that economy, because I've hosted him several times. We've been talking. He's a good friend of mine, and when you listen to his ideas in terms of economies, it tells you that indeed this guy has a very bright future and has got very good plans for Kenyans. Like for Kenya, he's a Kenyan and he knows what Kenyans need. So that we'll talk about that. But now the next thing that I want us to talk about is this: you were once a teacher, and then after being a teacher, you decided, no, enough is enough. Let me get into it. Let me get into another thing.
Yes.
And being that you are a teacher, do you really think that it was a good idea for the president to host teachers, leaders, the teachers themselves at State House? And then if it was a good idea according to you, why did it happen at State House? And if it was a wrong idea, then what was the president supposed to do? Remember, there was an embarrassment. You know, the problem is not even about hosting teachers at State House. The problem is, why were they hosted? Okay, the president was hosting for what reason? And then this money, remember the money that was spent was 100 million in a single day. So do you really think it was a good idea for the president to host teachers at State House and all that?
Okay, it goes both ways.
Okay.
Let me tell you this. Questions may arise. Very simple questions. Are these teachers Kenyans?
Yeah, they're Kenyans.
Thank you. Where are they going to spend that money?
In their homes.
Thank you. In Kenya, right? So that means
I see we have
so that means the money is circulating within. Okay, but on the same note, I want to begin by telling you this.
Okay.
You know, Kenya, you know, Africa, and Kenya is not an exception because we are in Africa. There is a problem with us.
With us Kenyans?
Africa at large, as a whole.
Okay.
Our type of leadership from eternity was the one of kings, emperors, queens, and princes.
Yeah.
Then we adopted the Western type of leadership, which is political leadership. So this is not our thing. We are not originals with this thing.
Okay.
So we are yet to mature politically. That is one. So that is why the political gamesmanship of Kenya involves some mediocre. You find people somebody even calling themselves Dr. So and so and Professor so and so, and they are just what Professor Lumumba calls them educated fools. Educated fools. They are learned fools. Because when you hear the reasoning of these people, you're like, something is wrong somewhere. You know,
so question, I want to ask a very simple question, Mr. Kelvin. If we had 10,000 teachers at State House, and in the country, the teachers that have been employed by the TSC are more than 400,000, right? So what about these other 390,000 teachers?
Brother, there is what we call sampling. You can't accommodate 400,000 people at the State House. It goes without saying that.
Okay, so these are my samples.
In any case, somebody would argue that it is sampling. I was actually trying to attack the idea of bringing these teachers. A teacher is a role model in a society.
Okay.
When you find that a teacher is the one being taken for that, it tells you something is amiss. In what way? This somebody who should even be against, you know, they are just handouts. Those 10,000 shillings are just handouts. This is somebody who should be on the forefront criticizing the idea of government giving away handouts. He should be leading students. He or she should be leading students by example.
You know, Mr. Kevin, we are missing a point here. 10,000 is not just, remember, it's money. It is not just money. You know, this money, and remember, you are a business person. And right now, what I've discovered is that a lot of businesses are being shut down. And you mentioned from the beginning that the problem that we have right now is that the money is not circulating within the people, it's being given to the government. That is why you cannot go to the bank and be given money as the way you used to be given. So when you say that this money that is being spent at State House is just money.
I think, Bonnie, I think it is good if we focused on the idea of bringing teachers than focusing even on the idea of the amount, because the amount was meant to even lure them. Because, for example, myself, if I'm coming from, say, Eldoret, and I have to come to Nairobi to go to the State House to collect 10,000, that is a journey of, like, say, 2 days. A whole day coming and a whole day going back. Then I take 10,000 and the transport and plus where I'm going to spend my night. You know, that one does not make sense. So, at the end of the day, let us talk about the idea and not the amount, because there's a lot of money in this country. Let me tell you there's
money. It's about how much we collect in a day?
I cannot be very, very sure, but it is something slightly over 2 billion.
2 billion. It's 1 point something or 2 billion.
Yes. Yeah. So this is what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay.
Focus on the whole idea of taking them there.
That's why I asked you. Was it a good idea?
And that is why I told you it goes both ways.
Okay.
I told you that this government has ideas they believe they need to implement. There is a way they have designed their service delivery. But they also believe they need more than 5 years to accomplish what they want. Okay. Whether for them or for the people. But they need more than, so they care about continuity. And caring about continuity, they will care about relevance. So it is also a campaign form of a thing, because when they go and present their ideas to teachers who they know they can comprehend well, and if they bought the idea, they will go and pollinate the idea. So that is a campaign, my brother. That teacher, if you convinced even 5,000 of the 10,000 teachers, and they'll go there and get you at least, in fact, that teacher is coming as a family. They'll go and convince at least a homestead of, say, 10. Baba, mama, relatives and cousins, who are you? Do you know that is translating to how many votes? So to them, they also trying to play their politics. So that was not even leadership, it was politics, brother. And you see, never challenge money that is spent on campaigns, because I told you, we are not mature. If you are mature, I could have gone straight for Professor Ogola for the ideas he gave. There was a time I watched a debate, a gubernatorial debate for Nairobi. I think it was in 2017, where we had the outgoing governor Sonko, and then we had Miguna. You know, in as much as, okay, they say it is easier said than done. If you listened to what Miguna had on that stage, you know, you could wonder how could a Nairobian go for Sonko at the expense of Miguna? Because he had ideas. So the day our politics changed to be ideological, or changed to be ideology based, that is the day we shall say we are mature. But as of now, we are not fully matured. We just make emotional decisions, and that is why a Kenyan in their sober mind will just sing RUTO must go just to impress Gachagua, of which the difference is the same.
Interesting. Okay, now you've talked about something. We are still here on teachers. You know, we are still here on teachers. I don't want us to talk about the money. We are here on teachers visiting State House, and you mentioned something, that these people that are going to State House, now it's not about maybe the money, but it's like the president himself is campaigning in a wiser way. And remember, there are people that are saying that it is not a time for campaign, but now they are campaigning there. So my question was this: when these people visit State House, a lot of things happen. You have to leave your IDs, you have to do a lot of things, you know, and you've also said that one teacher is equivalent to 5 household and all that. So in one way or the other, these guys are preparing themselves for 2027, right? Do you really think that when we reach 2027, things will flow the same?
Now, that one is to be left for the future.
Okay.
I'm the type of a person who has learned to teach myself that I take care of the minutes and the hours will take care of themselves. But on the same note, I told you it is both ways. If you reason with the president, he will tell you that maybe he brought people, no teachers are learned people,
so he wanted to get ideas,
so that he can sell his own ideas in person better. He believes maybe it will sink better, and if teachers understood the same, they will go and discharge. So it can also be argued that way. Number two, I was telling you that let us not talk about it as if these teachers are not Kenyans. They are Kenyans. They are our brothers, they are our sisters, they are our fathers, they are our mothers. So when they take that 10,000, it is not that it has gotten lost. They'll just go and spend at the nearest kiosk. They will spend at the nearest club. Kama ni mtu wa kupiga kamnyweso, they will go and spend this money within. And therefore, it is just circulating within us. In fact, I think I saw somebody, Joaquim Simiu, talking about, I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm not profiling people, but he was talking about a Canadian thief and a Kikuyu thief. He was talking about the thief who will take money and then invest so the money can circulate, and the thief who will take money and hide under the thief. So the difference. So to me, that this money is in circulation, okay, in as much as I could have felt we can improve on that one, to me it's still ours. Let the money go, because these are our brothers, sisters, mothers, uncles, and what have you.
You know, the problem is not money. The problem is how it's being spent. That is because I've noticed that every group that visits State House, money must be spent. And now that one brings us to the next question, the next topic that I want us to talk about, the issue of health, the issue of SHA. Aden Duale, the CS of health, is telling us that this thing must work. It must work, and it's working. The CEO, she's what is her name? Mwangangi, is also telling us that this thing is possible, it's working. Some people somewhere are saying that this thing is not working. Others are saying that it's like this issue of the new health is divided into two. There is a group that is saying that it's working, a group is saying that it's not working. Where is your stand? Is it working or not working? If it is working, have you witnessed? If it is not working, what is it that the government should do and that docket as a whole to make sure that every Kenyan benefits from this?
Okay, you know, my brother, I think this is not the first time I'm saying this.
Yeah.
When you look at the idea of SHA, and if you can be able to read and understand, it is one of the best. In fact, in Africa, it is the best.
Okay.
Now the question is about the practicability. Some leaders have been wooing citizens to go and register for SHA. How I wish they would use the same energy to tell these citizens, please contribute. Because how will it work when we are contributing less? The SHA is already in debt. The debt is growing to, I don't know, is it around 42 billion by now? 42 billion by now. Yeah. SHA is owing RUFA, the private hospitals, close to around 10 billion. My brother, you cannot tell me that I have to go and register and then you do not also encourage me to go and pay. You know, let us contribute. I am for this. I do not support the government on so many things. But for this SHA,
you support them.
Maji tuliyatolea nguo, lazima tuombe. Because at the end of the day, it is what we have. You know, we have to be realistic. Be candid with the people. Why are we telling people that this thing, let us push for change, let us reset back to the former NHIF, that we are past that stage now. Okay. We did not want it, yes, but it is with us. Now how best do we make use of it? Yeah. Contribute. Because, why am I saying so? The government is so desperate to prove that it is working, and therefore, remember when it came to NHIF, the services were exclusive. Yeah. You could be told you cannot receive these services, you are not eligible, and what have you. SHA has made eligibility to services very easy. Because the government is telling them, anybody, even when they do not know where they are going to get money to give these accredited hospitals. And there is also, you know, they say what goes around comes around. There is also the aspect of corruption. We cannot run away from that. I saw yesterday on the news, RUFA, is it the rural urban private hospitals, whatever. These people were threatening, or they have said that they are not going to offer or access. Yeah. You understand? Because they are protesting about the hospitals that were shut. They are protesting about the 10B that they are owed by the government or the SHA. They are making sense, and they are also not making sense. In this manner. Do not come as a group. Come as an individual. Point out the specific hospital that has been shut maliciously. Let us address that one, but that particular one. Don't come here defending people. We know, you know, do you know, I saw some statistics somewhere, somebody had delivered, I don't know, is it 72 times in a year?
Yes, 72 times.
And then according to SHA records, is it even practical? Why are they not talking about that? They need to tell us first that that was a lie. Then they confirm that that was a lie. Then now they can build from there and demand. Otherwise you cannot be demanding 10 billion when in a nutshell, probably what you are owed is around about 3 billion. That is the whole problem with Kenya. A lot of money is getting lost. And this is something, we need this SHA to work, we shall contribute. You cannot be here shouting SHA Ifanyi, and yourself you do not contribute. How will it work if you're not contributing? That is one. Wait, but it's okay. Wait. Number two, you cannot be here as a leader shouting to people that we shall revert back to our old system, the NHIF one, when you know that it is next to impossible. Let us embrace what is with us. Yes, we did not want it, but it was forced down us. Now, where do we go from here? We cannot live in the past. Okay. And again, you cannot just tell us that the government is maliciously shutting down your hospitals and you're not producing your own evidence as to why it is malicious. If it is true, by then let me tell you, those people, those individuals are corrupt. Those ones in government and those ones in the RUFA, some of them are corrupt. How I like it, because watamuana wenyewe, let them wash their linen in the public and we shall know at the end of the day. Let us run away from them, because as Kenyans we do not want to know who did what, who did not.
Yeah.
We just want to know whether or not we got value for our money. That is all we want. As I sit here today, when I talk about cases of corruption, you only know what we lost.
Yeah.
You do not know who is saying the truth. So we need to put a stop to this mediocrity. We need to be real. At least we need some kind of verisimilitude from the government and the roofer. Because SHA itself is a brilliant idea that wasn't working. The frustrations of Kenyans wasn't that it was a bad idea, was that it was not working. And now for that reason, the government is so desperately telling health institutions, tibu tu wao, without giving them money. It is accruing debts because it is desperate to show people that it is working.
Okay. So the government is really trying its level to show people that it is working. This thing is working. Okay, let me tell you this.
You have got an unkept child, na makamasi, na nini, what have you, inside the house, but there are visitors in your house. And then, instead of going to clean this child up so that they can be presentable, you are there trying to hide them so that the visitors cannot see this child. The government should, should come out in bold and say, because it is accruing debts, so that it can show us that it is working. Is this thing viable? You are struggling, using a lot of energy to show people that it is viable when we know it is next to impossible. So tell people to contribute, devise mechanisms of collecting this money, making sure that more people are registered, because people are really registering, and then make sure that the services are ones that will attract people. And you asked me whether or not I'm a witness. I don't know a lot. There was a time I went to a hospital earlier this year. I needed services, and I was told that SHA is not working. Then about a month ago, I had a relative who was hospitalized somewhere, accrued a bill of around 500,000, and in fact, looking at our family setup, I was blessing myself because I knew that some of us could be targeted when it came to contributing for this a relative. And I was blessing myself. We were making calls with some of my siblings and uncles and like, wait, tutatoa wapi hizo pesa? Then, one fine morning, I received a phone call from the wife, and it tells me SHA has cleared everything, a bill of slightly above 500,000. It has cleared everything. I can give you evidence of that if you want. It is a hospital called St. Luke's Orthopedics Hospital in Eldoret. Cleared everything, and all we need from you is transport, which is about 2,000 because we need to take a cab. I sent them 10,000 because I was overjoyed. So I think the government there in Ilipata, they wanted to show me that it is working, but have they paid this St. Luke's Hospital that 500,000? I doubt. So the government is struggling to show us that this thing is workable, it is viable, is a plan that is good, but they are choking themselves with the debts.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
As we wind up there, you know one thing I love with this discussion is that as we talk, we get new things. You are saying something very interesting, that the government itself knows that this thing is next to impossible, right? But now the problem is they want to prove to Kenyans that it's working, and that is why even the president himself comes and says that hata ukiwa na malaria enda hospitali utibiwe na usiulizwe pesa, walk out. So they want to tell us that this thing is working. And then they go behind, they go behind with a lot of debt. They borrow money to come and clear our bills that sisi wenyewe ndio tumeenda hospitali tukatibiwa. That's what is happening. Don't you think that that is also one of the ways that is really making Kenya like we are running bankrupt? Because okay, what is the need of proving a point? That's my question. What is the need of proving a point to us?
Now, I think where the government is wrong is on this one. It is not that SHA cannot work. I told you it is a very, very brilliant plan.
Okay.
SHA can work.
Right.
But the government itself, for some time, has acted as if it is at war with its citizens. To some point, the citizens are suspicious of everything the government brings, whether good or bad.
Yeah.
In fact, I was at a public participation forum for a certain thing in a certain county, sometimes last year, and this is a county which is doing very well, wanted to embrace technology to its full, wants to use what we were calling the GIS, geographical information system, to monitor the trades and businesses and collect revenues in the smoothest way, instead of having the canjos to harass the citizens. So I attended that public participation, and I'm one person who likes to learn. But when they were trying to tell traders that, so our people will be coming on the ground to take information, people were like, somebody asked a question, and it was very funny. He said, now, you have shown us how you are going to use our information, and we really love it.
Okay.
How are we sure that you are not going to share our information with the KRA, our data, with the KRA, so that the KRA will come after us? Because this is what I'm talking about, suspicion. The government has acted like it is at war with its citizens for quite some time, that anything it brings, whether good or bad, the citizens are skeptical. They are like, let us take a closer look. Let us not rush. You understand?
I get it.
So because of that, you remember the issue of vaccinating cows and all that. And some of these things, you want to push them down the throats of Mwananchi, make them embrace, let them on this project. So when it comes to SHA, why the government is using a lot of energy to show us that SHA is working, when we know that it is choking in debts to just put on that very good front?
Okay.
You understand? It is because if it came and campaigned to us to pay SHA, we shall think they want to steal money.
Okay.
In fact, even the opposition is very good at that. They will just come up with a propaganda and tell us, ukichanga.
Yeah,
for any, in fact, you guys, the members of the fourth estate are also others. Mnajua sana kwa tax serikali. So you will come up with a figure and say, every 500 shillings you contribute to SHA. Do you know that 247 goes to someone's pocket, and then people will buy that one. And lies spread like wildfire. So at the end of the day, is about the government building a relationship. Let Mwananchi on this.
Okay.
Make sure that Mwananchi has embraced fully the idea of SHA first and understood it. Then you can tell them to contribute. Okay. It will work. Because once you broaden the umbrella, the number of people who are contributing are more, the contributions are higher. We are good to go. That is my idea.
Now, as you wind up, I want us to go back to, we have a lot of people that want to vie for the presidency, right? And from my own understanding, we have very many of them. Some of them have been in government, have already served, and some wants to come in. Some had got other things that they were doing, their other occupations, and they've decided that, okay, let's leave these other occupations and try as much as we can to change the way Kenya is supposed to be, or change the Kenya, or change this our nation, because it's ours. If we leave it in the hands of maybe people who don't care about citizens, then we are doomed. Now, we talked about one of the greatest economists. I think you mentioned his name, Professor Fred Ugola, and he's among the people who wants to vie for the presidency. What do you think about his position? Like, let me put it this way: you are Kenyan. You know what we've gone through, and right now the most challenging thing in this country that must be dealt with, no matter however much we try to run away from it, is issues to do with economy.
Okay, I'll tell you this point blank before I can even give my own views. If what I have seen, heard Professor Fred Ogola say he is going to do, given the chance, he's the deal. You understand?
I get you.
If whatever he says is what he means, then I assure you, he is the deal. And if that is how he's coming, I don't know how you guys are going to stop me from campaigning, leave alone voting for him, campaigning for him, because he is ideological.
Okay.
Now the problem is here, because I must also be fair.
Yeah.
The problem is here. It's a question of it is easier said than done.
But I'm done. Yeah.
Now with that we come to his track record.
Records, okay.
Before I discuss Professor Ogolla in broad, something rings my mind that we still are so foolish that you might find that people are not even paying attention to what that guy is saying. Because Nairobi being the model county, the model government of the county government in Kenya, wait for someone like Honorable Sagaja, and I mean no disrespect against Igadi. This one, you know, look at the track record, my brother. Leave alone the good, you know, our former president called it mudomo tamutamu, leave alone the political theatres. No, brother, what are we thinking? Now that one brings us to the question of
the president.
Professor Ogolla is here. What has he done? Having been at
Strathmore University,
what have you, and all this, he's taught a lot of people. And by the way, in any case, let's suppose he ever turned his back against us when he becomes the president, we shall use his ideas to fix the nation.
Fix the nation.
Yes, he has already given us an idea. No, an idea shared cannot be. It's like education. If I educate you today, I cannot come tomorrow and say, I want my education back. You already know it. So the ideas he has are brilliant, and I think he's a nice guy. My challenge to him is to make Kenyans believe he can win it, because politics is about perceptions. Let people believe that he's going to win, because at the end of the day, his ideas will remain ideas if at all he never gets the seat. But if he has sense, he can be able to put them into a practical situation, and therefore things will work for our country. So to me, I encourage him, go for it. I like what you're doing, Professor. I don't know whether he's watching from wherever he is. Go for that seat, fight for it, but make sure that the larger amount of people, because the youth, the young people believe in ideas right now, especially with the Gen Z power around, and by extension as millennials, we have the Gen Z spirit inside us. Go for it, Professor. Make sure that we believe you are going to win, because your ideas will only remain to be ideas if you fail or if you do not make it.
Thank you very much. Your last statement as we wind up, that was very brilliant.
Thank you so much. Okay. To our viewers there, I want to say thank you so much for taking your time to listen to myself or us. And Bonnie, I want to say thank you so much for having me on this particular show.
You're welcome.
I'm very, very much a big fan of this very show. I follow you around. I follow your pages. I follow everything. And I want to say this to my brothers, the young generation, Gen Zs, and of course as the millennials, I want to say this. Let us be careful when we rip this country apart, whenever we have issues, whenever we have disagreements, because like I reiterated before, we are the only ones who will be tasked with rebuilding this country, the economy. When we do a lot of things, when we break people's businesses and what have you, we discourage investors, and these investors are the ones who are supposed to give us jobs, to give us, to improve our economy. And these investors do not just go and sit back to wait for tranquility to be regained so that they can come back and invest. They go and invest to other countries who are competing with us. So let us be careful whenever we do these things. As a victim of the violence that was there, or as a victim of the demonstrations that were there in July, I want to say this. You have a problem with the President RUTO next time, please go for him. He's at the State House sometimes, or you can find out, but do not come to my business again. I'm your brother, I'm your sister, I'm your friend. Please make sure that whenever you have a problem with the politicians, let us address the politicians themselves. Let us not hurt our economy to an extent it becomes hard for even ourselves to recover. Otherwise, thank you so much. And if I was a Catholic priest conducting mass in Italian, I could say "Pace convai." Pace convai is peace be with you. So pace convai.
Now, fellow Kenyans, what I want to say as we wind up this show is very simple and very direct. That you've had all these things, and now it's up to you now to make a choice. If you want this nation to be led by people who doesn't have any interest, or people who have got only self-interest other than the interest of Kenyans at heart, that is up to you. And as my brother have said, that please, if you have a problem with the government or the president, go to where the president is. Don't ever go to destroy other people's businesses. He's a victim. Losing over 1.something million, 2.5 million in a business is not an easy thing. Some people wanna end up being depressed and all that. But all said and done, please, it will be very much bad that you are going to watch this show up to the end and fail to subscribe. Please subscribe. God bless you. Asante. And until we meet again in the next video, if it is possible, I have been your host, Boniface. Bye bye.